Yeah, thank you, Risa. It's beginning to dry up out there, and I know where you are, young lady, that that is one of those locations. And thanks for the note there. Typically, when the music ends, it auto unmutes, and it did that yesterday too. And it's not like this actually helps me get an on-air feedback audio stream, which would be nice, but it would also be a little unusual listening to yourself with maybe a half-second delay or 2-second delay, depending on how quickly the latency would be on the net. But in any case, kind of a tranquil Friday. And for the weather guys and for those that have to chase storms or stay up all night and watch the radars because of flooding warnings, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So we're going to start with the sun. Let's do that today. No, let's do the entire screen. Let's do screen two and let's share. We'll start with that. Um, because we're into summer thunderstorm season, we had 20 people die in 2019, so says the National Weather Service, due to lightning. It's not a big number, but it doesn't have to be that high. It's something that you can do to kind of avoid that. And we're going to go down a little bit of a hole here. What we've had is the Goddard Space Center from NASA, and there is now, is now a constellation of satellites watching the sun. The sun is fascinating, and obviously, without it, life throughout the solar system would just kind of slowly grind on down, retreat inward into the planets that they find themselves on, and it would be an emergency to do that because that keeps things living. So what we're watching is the plasma, the energy, the solar wind, the constant flow of material from the sun that shapes our space weather and conditions across the solar system. So you can see that happening. But you also notice what looks like a blizzard of what would be snowflakes. If you're in a car and you're driving down a road and you've got your headlights on and you're driving in a snowstorm, you see the snowflakes leaving these tracers. And these tracers are something I have been interested in for a long time. And there's a site called SOHO Observatory, SOHO, Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, where I was frankly a little uh, kind of obsessed with seeing, what is all this snow? And the official word is that it's cosmic rays. And the more I examined these quote unquote cosmic rays, and I'm going to bring a picture up, this is what they look like, little points. But what I noticed, and this is kind of one of the better ones, that there's actually structure, and it looks like there's architecture and engineering. So, is it possible that the sun isn't all that we've been led to believe that it is? And we'll look at another couple of pictures, but these things are obviously some kind of structure that gets out there, orbits, unfolds, maybe their antenna. I don't know. I really don't know. But what I can say and say with certainty is that they're large, very, very large objects. And when I started posting some of this on my website back 2005, 2006, there was one day I got a nice letter from NASA's public relations and explaining to me exactly what they were. But even more interestingly, is within the week, the data all had a blur run across it. You could still see some of the texture within the sun, but the crispness of the images was just gone across the whole complement of frequencies that we were looking at. And so I kind of thought that I was kind of over the target with that particular one. All right, if you're in the Southwest, we have been dealing with smoke and what ended up being a very quick return to drought conditions in Southern California, northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, parts of maybe potentially even southern Colorado. I've seen some smoke plumes there, but I haven't seen fire names. But honestly, I haven't really gone looking for them. So there's some situation that's going on in some of these typically drier locations. And we're still early in the fire season. It's just June. We've got the monsoon yet to truly wake up, which would then do two things. It would bring about rain and thunderstorms, but it would also bring a lot of lightning. And with the dry atmosphere in the west, we tend to get lightning first. And if we're lucky, the rain does reach the ground. But a lot of times we just get lightning strikes, and then that leaves us really up for exposure to fire risk. We saw yesterday some of the plumes of the dust coming off of the Sahara and then surging in the easterly trade winds across the Atlantic, and that continues today. And as there's the dry, dusty air and all that particulate can really inhibit the development of of tropical storms. And then we've got some strong wind shear up above, so that's kind of good. There's a little guy down here in the Windward Islands that probably will not get a shot to go. All right, drought and fire concerns intensify as a flash drought develops into the southern plains as the heat builds in the southwest and central U.S. The jet stream still kind of wonky, doing its large undulating things with cool weather in the west and the northeast with heat underneath it, and that pattern is going to stick with us for a little while yet. Impressive look at the Magnum fire in northern Arizona. All of this down through here, and maybe this can grow larger, maybe it can't, probably not, is the Grand Canyon. So we're in some of those wooded areas, those fires north of the Grand Canyon, and then the plume of smoke heads north into southern Utah, across Zion National Park, and so forth. And then as we look at cooling in Eurasia, North America, Africa, Australia, South America, Greenland, Antarctica, undercuts the global warming, and new results of a study is basically saying. So on the whole, we're beginning to see what look like temperatures maxing right about the turn of the century and then plateaued or down a little bit. Even though we have some spikes in here, ultimately it's largely downward. And this is just kind of an indication that the oceans are staying warm, but it is the land masses that are beginning to cool. All right, man, that's it for that business. All right, we're going to look at just some of the temperatures since we talked about that big ridge in the middle of the nation, just right in through there, and then cool 40s, 50s, even 30s as we're getting some cool breezes off of Hudson Bay. But otherwise, it's kind of temperate with a cool front working through the northwest. And so chilly. I mean, summer chilly from the coastal areas of California and then into the Pacific Northwest and even down into the deep south. 80, 76, 79 Jacksonville. That's very comfortable. And then when you combine this with the cool front that is still deep in the Gulf of Mexico, the green hashed lines are where we find dew points at or above 60 degrees. And so we'll back out, and that high humidity is now confined just to that corner of the country. And with that humidity along that boundary, some thunderstorms erupted into the deep, deep south along the Florida border with Georgia. But otherwise, it's just not a bad day at all. A great way to start the weekend. And then another cool push of air into the Mountain West, triggering some lightning strikes, and then also a little bit of unsettled weather along the spine of the Rockies, the Sangres, and further south. The satellite imagery out into the Atlantic shows that dust as it works across the Atlantic. And it truly is kind of a sight to see. You're like, where's the dirty road? You're sitting on this beautiful blue island with blue seas, and then everything else just turns this hazy yellow and pale orange. Hey, Robin, Vicky, and Risa, good to see you on here this evening on a Saturday evening or Friday evening. What are you doing at home? Oh, COVID. We all have to be at home, don't we? Alrighty, here's the jet stream, or here's the radars along the west coast where they've been kind of dry. They had some good rains last week. They're kind of getting some reinforcing showers, and then also through the Colorado area, some thunderstorms around Monument Hill and south and east of Denver, and that's truly just about it as we begin to see just the continuation of the cool weather through the west, or excuse me, through the east, and then the fire conditions still out west. And that honestly is not going to go anywhere. We're dry until we get a good dose of the monsoon. What about record temperatures? Now, this top row, high maximum, if you're anticipating or the forecasting record high maximums, there's only one location today. And that was, of course, you don't want to bring it up. It was just ahead of this cool front in Montana, if I remember right. But by tomorrow morning, the cool record lows potentially from upper Michigan to say central Connecticut, and then say around Bingham to New York. So some cool nighttime lows coming up with really no record heat showing up truly anytime soon. So, and all of that is due to the jet stream just staying in this ridge in the middle of the nation, showery weather coming into the west, and just kind of reinforcing the cool weather out west, and then also in the northeast. So those places not having to endure a kind of a record heat wave, and wave after wave of kind of cool weather comes down from Canada, sweeps across the Great Lakes here. And that resolution, if you really kind of got to be familiar with maps to see all the colors on top of the lines, it's complicated. And we'll get a proper green screen setup here so I can stand up in front of this. But ultimately, we'll look at precip, and then the models cranking out Still some good rains. We'll go out 2 weeks, and the heavy rains, say in and around Kansas City, Topeka, Kansas, and then points east. The Southwest stays dry, so this is really where our fire risk is right now. And then tropics, not really anything is showing up. So that's kind of the good news for the time being, is that we're just not seeing the threat of severe weather reemerging onto the immediate horizon. Absolutely, it will. I mean, severe as in tropical weather. Just not going to happen here, even though as we head into an La Nina situation that tends to produce a preponderance of that. But we're going to keep Saharan dust out there in the Atlantic. It's not going to happen. I can just whisper that in your ear. All right, guys, Friday evening. Hope you had a great time through the course of the week, and you've got a good weekend ahead. Where don't you want to go? I mean, the West looks good. There's some pretty good weekend weather out there. So enjoy it. It is still just June, and we're kind of in this break, in a COVID break. So take advantage of that. Prep up and go enjoy the weekend. All right, everybody, keep looking up. I'll see you on Monday.